The vault here at Drury Outdoors is filled with tree stand gold, and it was hard to pry early Mark and Terry out of one, to be quite honest. In this throwback episode, we'll join Uncle T as he tries to bury an arrow into this whitetail timber toad. I'm Taylor Land, and this is another Throwback Thursday edition of DoD TV.
This segment of DoD TV is brought to you by Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's.
I simply refuse to give up on such a hot little spot. After having received extreme amounts of food pressure nearly every night for 2 to 3 weeks, the lush field continued showing signs of regeneration and new growth. Where else would you want to be other than an area where does frequent regularly as the bucks just begin to start that sparring and seeking phase? My mind was made up that I was going to wait for something pretty decent, and it seems like the older I get, the more I enjoy just observing. Sounds kind of crazy, doesn't it? But my idea of a fantastic hunt is to watch the behavior of undisturbed whitetails, maybe checking out how they approach a food plot on certain wind directions, or listening to some of the guttural sounds as they body posture. Boy, talk about a 3D target. The shot of all shots. Hours upon hours of behavioral patterns become locked away for future chess matches. It's become a real evolution as a hunter and a sportsman. It may not be for everyone, but I find that I've learned so much about hunting just by being patient and determined to learn more. Nudging does around this time of year is pretty common for a 2.5-year-old buck. But this activity doesn't go unnoticed by the 3.5-year-old. Instincts kick in and the pecking order is established. The result is dominant body posture. See if you can pick out the distinct characteristics in identifying the different age classes. Notice the eyes, neck, belly, and legs. It's pretty apparent if you just take the time to observe. I don't know if my deer of choice will show up this evening, but it really doesn't matter. I've had the chance to learn more by observing. I may rotate this field out next year and plant more biologic at some other key locations. What a magnet, and what a fantastic hunt. I can't wait to talk with Mark.
Boy, those last two sequences really show the pulling power of biologic. I dare say that if you would have rewound the clock there about 2 or 3 years ago, Terry's choice to shoot the doe would have been reversed, and instead he'd have tried a shot at one of those bucks. But we've both evolved. We've tried to become better stewards of the land. We're trying to manage for bigger deer. That's what he and I both desire, a more quality herd on our properties. To do that, you have to understand that deer are born at a 1-to-1 ratio. For every 50 buck fawns, there's 50 doe fawns. Now, I dare say in your own hunting experiences, you see far more does than you do bucks. And you need to look at the ratio in which you're seeing them. Then you need to do your part, like Terry did in that instance, to try and maintain a 1-to-1. That's unrealistic to try and achieve, but you gotta keep it close. Pass more young bucks, shoot does, fewer mouths at the table, more quality deer herd end result. Now, let's get off the food plot and into the timber to one of our favorite stands to hunt.
Climbed up. We were a little late getting here, as normal, as usual. We had a big 12-point come in on us. Right here, 20 yards in the brush. If he'd have stepped out, I could have busted him, but he caught our wind. He's directly downwind of us. Big ones always do it.
Brother Mark said a mouthful when he said, "Let's get into the timber." It's a totally different type of hunt than that of hunting over a food plot. There isn't a perfect wind, and inevitably, you're going to give up or surrender at least one downwind direction. Therefore, your approach should also be from the same downwind direction so as not to sacrifice two different areas. Swirling winds and changing thermals can be even more difficult to read, which is evident by this buck's reaction. Although your wind may be blowing in one direction, your thermals 25 foot below down at the Earth's surface may actually be going in the opposite direction. It becomes pretty frustrating at times. The only difference is now we know why they sometimes turn and walk away.
He's still standing down there, real nice 8-point, big tall rack. Just about, 80, 90 yards. It's a beautiful morning. There's turkeys calling. I just heard one gobble twice. It's gonna be a great day, I hope.
As the sun begins to rise and gradually heat up the Earth's surface, the thermals are also rising, giving way to more consistent wind direction. A high-pressure system always allows for the thermals to rise of a morning. Therefore, we like to try and hunt at higher elevations in the mornings, like a ridgetop, for example, rather than at lower elevations in a hollow or valley, for instance. There are a host of other elements that also come into play: moon phase, temperature, and barometric pressure, just to name a few.
He went on up on the hillside. You never know, we might see him again. As Stultz used to say, maybe he'll pick up a hot doe and bring you right back by the stand. He's a good buck. That is really a pretty 8-point. And these does, he's corralling them. He will not let them off this ridge. They're wanting to go on their normal travel route. And he's keeping them corralled up on top here, so who knows? We may get another opportunity to just take a look at him. Good deer. There's a deer right here. He's coming. That's a shooter.
Lo and behold, yet another buck, a 4.5-year-old that Mark and I have seen before. Man, when conditions are right, there's no telling what might pop up.
What a morning. Man, oh man. We had a beautiful buck right here early, as soon as we climbed up. Came in, smelled us. Then it wasn't long, that big 8-point came in, right down here, just out of bow range. Had an encounter with him. Wasn't long, that same 8-pointer was following a doe, and he got down in a hollow here. He was corralling her. He wouldn't let her get down off the hill. He kept her up here, but he scooted off on the other ridge. That wasn't long. Here this buck came in. What a morning. He's a beautiful deer, great deer. I think I hit him good, but it looks good. Whew, hallelujah. Man, oh man. What do we see in this early morning light? He's got to be. Right there. many things that have to come together, boy, I'll tell you. It's been exactly a year to the date, and within 45 minutes, as a matter of fact, as to when Mark shot a deer out of that same exact set last year. And this deer isn't too far removed from that deer, very similar. Big, heavy horn deer. We filmed this deer 2.5 years ago out of that same set, so I know he's a 4.5-year-old deer. I'm hunting one of my farms here in Illinois, and we like killing these mature deer out of that particular set anyway. It's just been one of our best spots. And I'll tell you what, there's a lot of things that come together. You hear us talk about it often. We always talk about that moon, and we keep elaborating on it. Well, this was one of those mornings where the moon was still up and the deer were on their feet coming back to bed, and it was beginning to fall, and we saw a beautiful 150 or 155 inch 10-point came in on us, caught our wind, boogied out of there. Wasn't long, we saw that 140 inch 8-point down there with that doe, or 145 inch. Nice, real pretty tall racked 8-point. Heavy deer. He was with a doe. He wasn't allowing her to get off of that ridge. He had her corralled up there, and he was going to keep her up there. And he just kind of fed on off, or she fed on off, and he followed her up on the next hillside. Wasn't long, we had this deer. Within a matter of minutes, he came in right behind us. And it's just one of those mornings where everything came together. We heard turkeys early, and it's beautiful high-pressure system with a rising barometer. There's a lot of other elements that go into it. It's not just the moon. There's other things that we look for, and pressure systems, and whether the barometer's rising and falling. There's so many things that have to come together. Well, it worked great this morning, and I'm tickled to death to kill a mature animal like this. He is a pig.
Well, you know, it's hard to explain the feeling that you get when you wrap your hands around a heavy main beam. And it's kind of indescribable. Only another archer or deer hunter would be able to relate to that. But you know, we talk a little bit about management and certain criteria and when we're in the tree and why we're so successful. Well, there are several elements that we really key in on, and I mean we look at them really hard. And one is a high pressure system. 2 is a rising barometer. 3 are the cold, frigid temperatures. And number 4, a moon either on the rise of an evening or falling in the morning. In this particular hunt, it just happened to still be overhead and hadn't fallen yet. And where do we go, or what do we look for on those particular mornings? We try and slip into a bedding thicket or a bedding area. It was peak of the rut, and the deer were still on their feet. They hadn't bedded yet, and all the elements just kind of came together there. Now, as far as age class and what structure we're looking for, we're trying to harvest 4.5-year-old deer and up. And this particular deer, we knew that he was 4.5 because we filmed him at 2.5. So we were fortunate in that respect.
And a northwest wind. Temperatures are going to be dropping 10 degrees. Perfect conditions for the skinny field. My shooter's been all over that north side. Gotta focus on those afternoon hunts. Northwest tree stand, 5 p.m.
It's the easiest decision you'll make this season. Get ahead of your game with DeerCast.
We're adding new videos every week, so make sure to click that subscribe button and check out all of our amazing content. This episode of DoD TV was brought to you by Mossy Oak.